There's something about the silence after sex that many men don't talk about. That strange moment when the passion fades and you're both lying there, quiet, breathing. Maybe she's curled into you. Maybe she's turned her back. Maybe you're already reaching for your phone. But that moment, that's where everything begins. Or everything ends. Men think the act is the climax, that once you've had her, the job is done. But what you do immediately after tells her more about your soul than anything you did in bed. You think sex is about dominance, about proving your worth. But for her, it's exposure, vulnerability. You just saw her body. But what she's really waiting to feel is, did you see her heart? Do you respect her soul? And the truth is, how you treat her after the act will echo far louder than anything you said before it. You can make a woman feel used or feel valued in just the 5 minutes after you climax. So let's talk like grown men. Because if you want to be the kind of man she respects, the kind of man she remembers, the kind of man who doesn't just sleep with women but elevates them, then you better not forget to do these 3 things. You'd be surprised how loud silence can feel after sex. When all the heat has cooled and you're both lying there, skin to skin, or maybe just close enough to hear each other breathe, that silence says everything. And the question isn't what you did during the act. The question is what you're doing now that it's over. Because that moment, right after, is when her body might relax, but her mind starts racing. What does this mean? Was I just a body to him? Was this just another night? And in that tiny window of emotional vulnerability, you as a man have a chance to either build safety or sow uncertainty. Most men don't realize this. They think the connection ends at the orgasm. That is the moment they climax. The emotional job is done. But a woman isn't just processing the physical. She's interpreting the emotional signals. She's listening for cues, reading your body language, scanning your soul to see if she just opened herself to someone who actually saw her. And that's where something so small, yet so profound, comes in. Look her in the eyes. Say her name. I don't mean it mechanically. I mean intentionally. With presence, with softness, with awareness that this is not just a body beside you. This is a person who just let you into the most private parts of her being. When you say her name after sex, it's like anchoring her soul. You remind her that she's not invisible. You remind her that this wasn't just about you taking pleasure. It was about 2 people sharing something real, even if it wasn't love. It's basic emotional decency. And yet so many men neglect it because a lot of men fear that level of closeness. Eye contact feels intimate. Saying her name feels vulnerable. But let me ask you something. If you were bold enough to enter her body, why are you afraid to enter her eyes? Why are you afraid to hold her presence with yours? You don't have to say something poetic. You don't have to deliver a speech. Just look at her, let your face soften, and say her name like it means something. Because it does. It's her identity. It's her grounding. It's her quiet question answered. Am I still safe here? And here's what happens when you don't, when you avoid eye contact, when you roll over, when you disconnect. She starts retreating into her thoughts. She replays the night, not with joy, but with doubt. And even if you didn't intend to, become another name she stores in her memory as someone who didn't see her, someone who made her feel wanted for a moment, but invisible after. You don't want to be that man. Be the one who slows down, who holds space, who sees her fully even in her most raw, unclothed state. Because how you treat her after sex reveals more about your manhood than anything you did during it. Say her name. Look at her. Let her feel safe. That's real power. So many men miss this. After sex, they think their job is done, like the act itself was the prize, the finish line, the accomplishment. But let me ask you something real. When was the last time you actually checked in with her after? Not about the sex. Not about how good she thinks you were, but about her. Her emotions, her heart, her state of mind. Because here's the truth most men never get told, Dee. For many women, sex isn't just physical. It's psychological. It's emotional. It unlocks layers she doesn't always show. It can trigger thoughts, memories, fears, even traumas she didn't expect to feel. And in the quiet after it's all done, while you're basking in the release, she might be quietly asking herself, am I still safe? Was this okay? Did I just give something to a man who won't even notice how I feel now? You don't have to become her therapist, but you do have to be emotionally available enough to check in with her like a decent human being. And no, not by saying, was it good for you? That's just your ego fishing for applause. That's not care. That's performance validation. She's not your audience. She's a person who just shared something deeply intimate with you. Ask her if she's okay. Ask her if she needs anything. Water, food, warmth, peace, and mean it. You'd be shocked how far that goes, because while her body may have relaxed, her nervous system is still scanning. Is this man present, or is he gone already? Is he still with me in energy, or am I now lying next to a ghost? And here's the kicker: when you ask her how she's doing, you're not just making her feel cared for, you're creating emotional safety. And that safety, that's what makes her want to come back. That's what makes her trust you. That's what separates a moment that haunts her from one that heals her. A lot of men talk about being high value, about being alpha, about being the man. But being the man isn't about dominance. It's about emotional maturity, about having the awareness to recognize that after physical intimacy, what a woman often craves more than anything is emotional anchoring, someone to hold her, not just with arms, but with presence. So check in with her, not because it's a game, not because it gets you anything, but because it's right. Because you care who she is outside of what she gave you. Because you understand that being inside her physically means nothing if you never try to understand what's going on inside her emotionally. The world is full of men who want to take few ever pause to see. Be the rare one. Be the man who doesn't just sleep with her, but shows up for her, even in the quiet, even in the dark, even after the act is done. That's the kind of man she never forgets. There's a moment right after sex where time feels strange. For a few minutes, everything is suspended, the world slows down, and what happens in that space, it shapes how she remembers you. But so many men fumble it. They either jump up like they've completed a task and need to flee the scene, or they linger, disconnected, scrolling their phone, or silently fading into boredom. And both leave a woman with the same feeling, emotional confusion. You see how you transition after sex says more about your character than what you did during it. A lot of men confuse physical intimacy with emotional closeness, but they're not the same. Physical closeness means nothing if you can't handle the emotional weight of what just happened. And believe me, for her, there is weight. Even if it was consensual, even if it was casual, even if it was fun, the act still opens something. There's energy exchange, there's vulnerability exposed. So when you rush to put on your clothes or bolt out the door without a word, you leave her with the emotional mess to clean up. You reduce the experience to something that feels like consumption. You say, without saying, this wasn't worth even a few extra minutes of my time. That's not just insensitive, it's emotionally careless. And on the flip side, don't be the man who stays just because you don't know what else to do. Staying with dead energy is just as damaging as leaving too soon. If your heart has already checked out, she will feel it. You might think you're doing her a favor by sticking around, but if you're emotionally absent, your presence becomes hollow. She starts second guessing herself. She starts wondering if the silence means shame, or if she misread the connection. And that confusion, it lingers, it wounds. So what should you do? Be intentional. If you're going to stay, stay fully. Be warm. Be present. Hold her. Talk to her. Even if it's just for a little while, let the space after the act be one of comfort, not confusion. And if you're going to leave, don't make it feel like an escape. Look her in the eyes. Say something human, something kind. Thank you for tonight. You're amazing. Get some rest, okay? Give her closure, not a cold shoulder. It's not about being perfect. It's about being clear. Give her energy that matches your actions. Let her know without games or mixed signals what she just experienced with you meant something. Even if just a moment of mutual respect. Because at the end of the day, every woman you sleep with remembers how you made her feel after. That's what stays with her. That's what she tells her friends. That's what becomes your reputation. So don't rush out like a thief in the night, and don't linger like a stranger in her bed. Be a man who respects the moment, who leaves her with peace, not pieces. That's the difference between being forgettable and being unforgettable. She already knows you find her attractive. You made that very clear the moment your hands explored her body. She felt it in the way you kissed her, the way your breathing changed, the way your eyes traced every inch of her. She knows. Her body got the message. But here's what you might not realize. Once the physical is over, she's not just lying there waiting for compliments about her curves. She's hoping silently, vulnerably, that you saw her, not just the body. Her. Because after sex, a woman becomes acutely aware of where you were really paying attention. And if all your praise, all your attention, all your desire was aimed at her waistline or her thighs or how she looked good riding you, then you've missed the moment. You've missed her, and it doesn't matter how good the sex was. If she leaves feeling reduced to skin and softness, it leaves a dent, a subtle one, but a real one. You want to stand out? Compliment something that has nothing to do with her body. Tell her you noticed how she laughed earlier and how it lit up the room. Tell her how confident she was when she challenged you in that conversation and how that turned you on far more than her lingerie. Tell her she carries a presence that made you feel safe, yes, you the man. Tell her something about her soul, because when a woman gives her body, she doesn't just want to feel desired, she wants to feel seen. And when you say something like, I love how thoughtful you are, or you're the kind of woman who makes a room feel warmer, you give her a gift. You tell her that who she is beyond the flesh is what moved you. That she wasn't just a body, she was an energy, a presence, a story. And do you know what happens when you give her that? She relaxes, she exhales, her heart that may have been bracing for regret softens. Because she realizes you didn't just use her moment, you honored it, you elevated it, you gave her her humanity back when the world constantly tries to strip it away. Any man can admire a woman's curves, but it takes a different kind of man to praise her essence. That man, he's rare. He's the one she remembers years later when she's lying beside someone else and thinking, I never made me feel that seen. So don't be lazy with your words. Don't default to what every other man says. Be thoughtful. Be specific and speak to the parts of her that most men overlook. Because when you see a woman fully clothed in her spirit, not just naked in her skin, that's when you truly leave your mark. Not on her body, but on her heart. And that is unforgettable. After sex, there's this strange emotional air that lingers. This in between space where everything feels heavier, quieter, more vulnerable than before. And you know what makes that space feel lighter? Laughter. Real, gentle, playful laughter. Not sarcasm, not clownish jokes. But that soft, human moment where you both get to breathe again. Where the tension lifts, where the weight of the act doesn't have to feel so serious, so final, so emotionally confusing. Because whether you realize it or not, a woman often lies in that post-intimacy silence with a mind full of questions she can't always ask. What does this mean? Does he still see me the same? Was this just physical for him? Is he already detaching, even when the sex was good, even when it felt connected? Her nervous system is still in overdrive. It's vulnerable. Exposed. And more than anything, she just wants to feel safe again. And sometimes safety doesn't look like heavy talks or dramatic reassurances. Sometimes it looks like a moment of shared joy. A silly inside joke about how the sheets got messed up. A soft laugh about how your legs gave out halfway through. A playful tease about how she got too competitive with who was on top. It doesn't have to be rehearsed. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Because when a woman laughs after sex, she releases more than breath. She releases fear. She releases self-doubt. She releases that quiet panic that every woman has felt at some point. Did I just give too much of myself away? And your ability to bring her that moment of joy tells her one thing. You're okay here. You're not alone in this. That ladder becomes a bridge. It becomes a balm. It becomes a sacred little reminder that she didn't just give her body, she shared a moment with someone emotionally present enough to hold it. So don't underestimate playfulness. Don't think being serious means being strong. Emotional strength often shows up in softness, in humor, in those little gestures that say, hey, we're still human here. We're not just bodies lying in the dark. We're two souls trying to feel safe in each other's presence. And hear this, when you're able to make her laugh after something so intimate, it tells her you're not afraid of her vulnerability, that you're not just there for the climax, but also for the calm, that you're not a man who disappears into coldness the moment the passion fades, but a man who stays warm, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. So don't overthink it. Just stay open. Be silly, be light, be warm. Let your smile tell her she's safe. Let your humor remind her she's still beautiful in the aftermath, because laughter after intimacy is healing. And the man who knows how to bring that into the room, he's not just unforgettable, he's irreplaceable. This is where most men destroy everything they just built. After sex, after the connection, after the laughter and closeness, they fall into silence. Not the silence of presence, the silence of absence. They think being quiet or distant gives them power. They've been told, don't text too soon, don't act too eager, don't look weak. And so they wait for hours, for days, for never. But here's what no one tells you when a woman gives you her body and then you vanish like she was nothing. She doesn't just question you. She starts questioning herself. She replays every moment. Oh, was I just used? Did I do something wrong? Or was I too available? That silence you're using as a tactic. It's actually emotional violence. It chips away at her dignity. And it reflects your immaturity, not her worth. So hear me clearly. If you were man enough to lay with her, be man enough to follow up, send the message, no games, no fear, just a real respectful text. Hey, I appreciated tonight. Hope you're okay. Or, I just wanted to say you made me feel safe too. That's not weakness. That's emotional clarity. That's masculine presence. You might think, but I don't want to lead her on. That's valid. But silence is not clarity. Silence is abandonment. You don't need to promise her forever. You don't need to fake feelings you don't have. You just need to honor the experience. And if it meant something, say that. And if it didn't, say that too kindly. With honesty. With dignity. Because even if this wasn't love, it was still intimate. It was still real. Women are not afraid of the truth. What crushes them is confusion. It's the uncertainty. The emotional cold shoulder after physical warmth. It's the hot and cold pattern that makes them doubt their judgment. And the man who disappears after being so close. He's not powerful. He's forgettable because he made her feel replaceable. And I know some of you were never taught this. Some of you were taught that after sex, your only job is to move on, that feelings are weakness, that messages mean you're too into her. But the truth is, messages mean you're not afraid of intimacy, that you're emotionally intelligent enough to close a moment with grace or begin something new with honesty. So send the message, not because you're chasing, not because you're desperate, but because you're respectful, because you value what she gave you, because you're not just a body, you're a man with a conscience. And I'll say this with love, if you can't send a simple message after sleeping with someone, you weren't ready to sleep with them in the first place. Be the man who finishes what he starts, not just in the bedroom, but in communication, in clarity, in care. That's not weak, that's rare, and women remember rare. There's a part of her that will never say it out loud, but she's watching you, right after the moans fade, right after her body melts beside yours. She's watching how you breathe, how you move, what you say or don't say. She's reading you in silence, praying, please don't treat me like the others did. You see, every woman carries a file cabinet of moments. Moments where she felt tossed aside after being undressed. Moments where her body was worshipped and her heart was ignored. Moments where she thought maybe this man would be different only to be ghosted, dismissed, erased. So when you do the bare minimum, when you touch her without tenderness, when you leave without a word, when you vanish like she was a transaction, you don't just hurt her. You become part of the scar tissue. You become the reason she builds walls.